All right, welcome everybody to another James and Jay Dissects the Walking Dead. I'm joined by my buddy over here, James Wade. I'm Jay Dorn here. Today we'll be answering your questions from seasons 1 to season 3 and some overlap into the future seasons as well. Before we start, though, there's a couple announcements. Charity right now is still American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So if you get a chance, check down below for the link and how to donate. James, you have anything before we go and kick off?
Yeah, man. A lot of how you doing tonight, Jay? First of all, uh, and everybody watching, and a lot of great questions that we've saved up.
Oh yeah.
Uh, we have we're gonna get to all the questions tonight that I've been archiving, I guess you could say, and then we'll have I have another good question at the end, and we'll get into that. I didn't put it on the list, but kind of like a little. There was a little question asked me of one of my colleagues if we can do something added on to the J and J dissect, but we'll get into that at the very end. But hope it's a good show, man. Special Q&A show.
Yeah, we try to answer all the questions. Just time constraints, we can't get to everyone, but yeah, I think it's a good idea for us to kind of like James said, archive them, and we'll circle back to them when we can.
Yep.
And like James said, there's some really good questions, and thank you guys for sending them on in. We love answering them. We love being, testing our own knowledge a little bit here and digging a little deeper into The Walking Dead.
And just a FYI for if you don't hear your questions, I try to split them up. And Jay, both of us agreed that we would do the recaps from seasons 1 through 3. So if I had questions from like season 4, I mean there are a couple that, like Jay said earlier, overlap. But seasons 4, 5, and 6. We're gonna do the second half of the season review after the season finale of season 7. So we'll do another Q&A, and then we'll have seasons 4, 5, and 6 Q&A. That'll be after the season finale and after the second half of our season reviews. So don't worry. Like I said, I've archived them all.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yep.
And if you think you can stump us, go ahead and ask. You never know. We'll do our best to answer. You might have to research it, but we'll get the best answer that we can for you.
Well,
All right. So let's go ahead and jump into these assignments here. Some little homework for us. Where do you want to begin, James?
even before we begin, Jay
Yeah.
did post the episode list, my playlist for the episodes,
Yep.
and the playlist for music. If you want to make a YouTube playlist and listen to some of the songs from the Walking Dead TV show, and hope you enjoy it. Check that out on echo5studios.com, and you can see all the rest of Jay's incredible work. D&D, Happy Wife is on there too. He has a lot of different things on there and more to come. But definitely check out his website. He's doing a good job.
Thanks, James. And just tag on that. Everything we get, any kind of donation or advertisement fee we get from that goes straight to charity. So
Straight to charity.
100% right over there. These are passion projects. I like to talk about. James and I love The Walking Dead. We love talking about it.
Yep.
Why not try to benefit the less fortunate while we do it.
Got that right, Jay. Good job, man, on the website, though. I appreciate how you have me on, as always. And, of course, I appreciate you putting that episode list up for people in case they, are bored at night.
If you have to choose, how many did you get it down to? Is it 20?
28. I try to get it
28?
to 20. I try to get it down to 24, so it could be like a 24-hour binge. But it is too many great episodes. Again, it's on the website. Check it out. If you do want the complete 42 episode list that I have, I'll be glad to put that down. But like I said before, man, it's on the website. Check out the website. Don't just check out the episode list. Check out everything else that Jay does. He's incredible. And, we just hope you enjoy that list, the music, and everything else. Well, let's get into the show, buddy. Let's start off with these questions.
Yeah. Start right at the top of the list here. This was a little list or listed itself in this question. So the first one is, how many human survivors died in the show and have subsequently turned into walkers?
So this question was posed. Obviously, we're not going to go over every human that died. I guess this question was how many people died and actually turned and was shown or presumed to turn in the show.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to disclude all the wolves that the survivors killed in Alexandria. We're going to disclude all the people in Terminus. That's the butcher. That's the guy with the bat. Obviously, they turned. And all the governor's men that turned throughout the show, the heads in the governor's aquarium. We're gonna just we're not gonna go over all those guys, but these were kind of the main characters, or they were guest stars, or they were also starring characters, as you would say. The first one is Leon Bassett. He was in season 1. He obviously got bit. He was in a Shane's special. I think it was called No Man's Land. And he was in Shane's special. It was like a Android special on Android phones. They showed
it was neat. It was kind of like a choose your own adventure kind of game. Nothing high impact. Nothing quite like Telltale to that level.
not even
but
close.
It's it was fun. It was fun.
And it showed the backstory, and it showed Shane's. It showed his journey before he got Rick out of the hospital. So, Leon Bassett got bit on the shoulder. It showed he took, they had another police officer inside the precinct and a prisoner that were both bitten. And depending on who you chose to save, the other person who was bitten would come and bite Leon on the shoulder. He obviously was bitten. Rick put him down as a walker, as a mercy kill. The second person was the biggest one of season 1 in my book, and was Amy. She got bit, and this is an Easter egg. She got bit on the left shoulder neck area. When Andrea died, she got bit in the same place. The only difference was Andrea put herself down the same way she put Amy down. So, and Andrea also used the same line she used to Rick when she was mourning her sister, and Rick came over to say, we have to put her down. Andrea said, I know how the safety works. And then, of course, in the season finale of season 3, when Andrea's bit on the shoulder, and Rick comes over to, of course, help her out, help her commit suicide or put her down himself, she tells him again, I know how the safety works. So it was it was kind of like paying homage to the first season and Amy. The third one was Jim. Well, we know he got bit, and we know he wanted to stay alive, and he wanted to turn in hopes of finding his family as a walker.
Right.
4 was Sophia. That was the biggest reveal in season 2.
Yeah, that was crazy to see her come out of that barn.
Exactly. And a theory about Sophia was, how did she get bit? Well, Rick kind of hinted on how she would die by saying, if you're going to return back to the highway, keep the sun on your left shoulder. And that's where Sophia got bit, was on her left shoulder. So it was kind of like a clue on what happened to Sophia as, she tried to keep the sun on her left shoulder. Obviously, the walker bit her on the left shoulder. It was just shown that, she was looking back, or she was, trying to, focus on keeping the sun on her left shoulder. It kind of gave you a hint on what exactly happened to her. Randall was another a human that was killed. Shane snapped his neck.
That was a big one, because it's the first walker we've encountered and knew that, hey, he didn't get bit, but he's a walker. Like, what's going on here?
So those were 2 big ones. You had the Sophia reveal where she was in the barn, and you had the Randall reveal of not everybody who dies will turn. Shane, he was next. So we're up to 6. Merle was next in season 3. So now we're up to 7. Milton, Mammoth. He was killed by the governor, just like Merle was. Both Milton and Merle were killed and left to turn, and both by the governor, obviously. Next you have Patrick. He was, he's Phineas and Ferb guy. Yeah. He's Carl's friend. He caught the swine flu, died in the shower, and he caused an outbreak in the prison. He's also one of the children zombies we talked about earlier on that had died in the show. Dr.
I'm not sure
Cable,
what his actual age was.
he was older than Carl. he was a teenager, and I think they said that because Carl kind of looked at him like, you're too old to go to story time,
Too old to be playing those Legos
and
over there.
too old to be playing with the Legos too. And
Yeah.
he was trying to tell Carl, hey man, I want to be a kid again. I don't want to, He was
Yeah.
very mature for his age, and you could tell that he was, his IQ was higher than most children in the zombie apocalypse. Just to have the sense to try to hold on to some sort of a childhood shows he had a high IQ. So his death was, a sneaky death that meant a lot. He was the first person to succumb to that flu. So again, you had another death there. Dr. Caleb, he was the doctor that was with the prison gang in season 4. He ended up turning. He bled through his eyes, and then Herschel put him down as a walker. Herschel, the governor chopped off his head.
There are several other ones who succumbed to the virus in there too. But
Yeah,
nothing of note, I guess.
Yeah, it was mainly that they fall into the Terminites, they fall into the Governor's Men and the Wolves. They were just background characters. Herschel was next. He got his head cut off by the governor, but as we all know, if you don't destroy the brain, your head will reanimate. He was given the Tyrese comic book death as Michonne put him down with her katana. Next in season 4 was Pete. Pete, if you look back at it, Pete was he was part of the group. The what the hell are their names, Jay? He was part of the what is it called? Claimers group, and Rick choked him out. and you had Rick choked him out, and he turned in the bathroom, so it was presumably he turned. We didn't see it, but we do know that he turned.
Yeah, he attacked the group itself.
He attacked the other group members
with Joe.
Yep, with Joe, and Joe actually saw Rick's face and knew that Rick had killed him.
I will add one in there with
the Glenn Walker
new group, like the one brother.
Yes.
That he stabbed and then later on chained him to the bottom of the pond.
That was Pete. I'm sorry, that's Pete. The claim guy was somebody else. I forgot his name. I messed up. Pete was the brother of the tank guy. The claimer guy, I forgot his name. Jay, I'll probably get that, but that's a different one. So that's an extra guy there. So we're up to now 13. And then you had Joan in season 5. She committed suicide, and she killed herself in Dawn's office. And she wanted to reanimate and kill Dawn, who was the police officer that was a tyrant in the hospital. Beth actually set a walker trap, as she lured Gorman, who was a pervert, into Dawn's room. Actually, she got caught by Gorman trying to steal keys from Dawn's desk, but she lured Gorman toward the dead body or the reanimated corpse of Joan. And then of course Gorman was next. He was killed by Joan, and we presume that he turned because Dawn and the rest of the police officers in the hospital had a skirmish with Joan and Gorman. Next came in season 6, and David, he was the one who got bit in the woods, with Glenn and Michonne leading the way to the empty town in probably one of the best episodes of season 6. Thank you. He died. He reanimated later when we found out that Glenn was alive. He wrote a note to his wife Betsy saying that he died. Betsy figured that he died, never got the note, but Betsy killed herself. She became a walker, so we're up to 17. Deanna Moreau was next. Obviously, she went out like a champ. Yep. She got bit.
And we weren't sure right now she was going to become a walker until later on.
Yeah, and that's kind of a mistake that they made, because Deanna Monroe would have got torn apart by all those walkers. And when you seen her reanimated body, in the woods. She didn't have any bites on her at all.
Yeah,
She was like
yeah.
crushing it.
That's like one of those things. Like, if the zombies eat
Come on.
everything, then how
Yeah,
are there more zombies? It's
exactly.
only the ones who get like bit and run basically to
Yeah,
succumb to the virus, not the ones who get taken down and chewed up by a herd. Those ones, like you can say like the ones on Herschel's farm.
yeah.
In the
So
RV, that guy's probably torn to shreds.
torn to shreds. He would never. He would.
Patricia,
There
she's
wouldn't
probably
be
torn to
enough of him to come
shreds.
back.
Yeah.
You know.
So.
The head wolf, the W guy that Morgan saved. Obviously, he saved Denise. Carol shot him. After he got bit, they were looking. Denise wanted to save his life by chopping off his hand. On the way to the infirmary, he saved Denise's life, and then Carol shot him.
Mm.
And then he saved Denise's life again. So he ended up turning, and Morgan put him down with his kendo stick. And then you had Gordon in season 7. Gordon was the guy that Dwight was sent to bring back to the sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Dwight shot him in the back and put him on the wall. And then another epic death, an epic comic book death, so we're up to 21 at this point, was Spencer. And obviously he got gutted, and Rick put down his reanimated corpse. So there's 21. There's probably more. I know there's one more, 22 if you want to count it, but that's the guy that Glenn and Sasha were resuscitating with the oxygen thing, and he ended up turning into prison. But I think he's more of a background character. But
yeah.
I counted 21.
Notable either like plot, necessities, or definitely named characters. I would love to see just randomly a Jim Walker just pop in, just walk by somewhere.
Perfect.
Like an episode. This is the adventures of Jim the Walker.
That would be unbelievable if they did that. That's an absolutely fabulous idea that they should do in The Walking Dead. Is just bring back that character. They brought him back as a voiceover when Rick was going crazy in season 3, and they had his voice on the other end of the phone. Amy, Jackie, and Jim were all three of the 4 voices that Rick heard. Obviously, Lori was the 4th, but Jim basically told Rick, "Hey man, can I trust you on the phone? You can't come to our community." So that the actor was down to come back in The Walking Dead. I mean, that would be a great idea for Kirkman to have a webisode showing Jim turn. I mean, it's not like he's a kid where he's like 20 years old, 7 years older and doesn't look the same. He's an old man. Yeah. So you just put some makeup on him and show how
he's looking Walker anyway. He's covered everything up. Just show the adventure of Jim the Walker,
Yeah, unbelievable.
Walking around.
Unbelievable. So we got 21, and hope that if you guys can find anything else, email us and let us know if you have any more actual, not background characters, but plot driven characters that have names, were given names, and turned in the show, and not only died but turned in the show as well.
A lot of these are short lived too. Well, I should say short deaths. If you're a Walker, if you're named Walker, you're gonna have a short afterlife, I guess.
Yes.
Besides from Jim's a wild card. He could still be out there. Pete's still in the swamp. Yes.
Pete is still trapped underneath. We do know that Deanna Monroe was killed, and we do know that Gordon's still alive. He's on the wall.
That's true. Yep,
he's still
alive. He's still in play. We'll say that.
He's still definitely. So the ones that we know could possibly still be wandering the earth at this point would be Jim, would be Gordon, and that's probably it.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of loose ends, let's go to another question over here. Going back to season 1 again. What do you think happened to Morales' family? So first of all, who is the Morales family? Okay, so in episode 2, he was one of the members of the scavenging group that Glenn introduced Rick to. Obviously, Rick brought a whole bunch of walkers down upon him. They were in a building. This is one of the bad acting jobs of Andrea, where she hyperventilated and threatened to kill Rick in some building. Morales was the voice of reason at that point. He was, he's a Latino guy. He basically was
just another survivor, trying to protect his family. And once the walkers ravaged the camp, and they were given a choice to go to Fort Benning or to CDC, Morales decided to take his family and head west to find other family of his. And he separated from the group. We have no idea what happened to Morales at this point. There's been rumors that he's going to reappear. There were rumors that he was part of the Sanctuary, rumors that he was going to be in Fear of the Walking Dead, but he has yet to show back up. But Morales, that will be an interesting character to see return in the Walking Dead universe. I think that the actor can't actually negotiate a new contract. They're having trouble with it. There have been 2 or 3 different times I read that they try to get him to come back on the show, but he has other obligations, or the money probably wasn't right. Which so
Hey, I
he
mean,
did,
with how much money Walking Dead's making,
yeah, they could throw a little bit of money his way, but I think the storyline has to fit his schedule too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I would keep an eye out for him. I think that he could make a return in either Fear the Walking Dead or some sort of, flashback sometime down the road.
I think it'd be great. Maybe he heads back east and runs into, Walker Gym.
Yeah, and then the question was, what we think happened to him. Um, Again, we don't know, but I think he went out west. So that's a big clue. If he's going west, and Fear the Walking Dead is out west,
Mm-hmm.
and Morales he's of Latino descent, and Fear the Walking Dead is venturing in Mexico, maybe they'll cross paths. I think that Morales is still alive out there, and he's, like I said, he could be an intricate character in one of these shows. I think that he survived. I think that he may have lost his family, and it could turn him as a character, or he may have kept his family alive. We don't know, but I'm gonna say, because I'm more cynical, I think that his whole family perished, and he's just like this rogue survivor now, just trying to make it. So that's my opinion. What do you think about Morales, Jay?
If you're a kid in the apocalypse, it's probably gonna be a bad day for you. Family in general, they don't last that long.
Nope.
So, yeah, I think the odds are against his family being all there. I
Agreed.
like to see him. Like you said, I love to see him just in the Fear the Walking Dead, even just passing by.
Yeah, like a rogue survivor, like a hardened
Mm.
survivor. That would be awesome, because his character, again, then we talked about these characters shed their skins. He obviously was a very, positive person, had a lot of morale.
Mm.
And what happens when you have to become a survivor. You have to lose some of that, past life about yourself. So it'd be nice to see the other side of Morales, in a different show as well. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
All right. Let's stick with the season 1 questions here. Let's go with another. What do you think would have happened? A little
Okay.
question. What do you think would happen had the group actually went to Fort Benning?
I think we went
Um,
over this. I think we went over this already.
a little bit, yeah. And I guess would they like gone there before the CDC or gone there actually made it after the CDC?
So we could break that up into 2 parts then.
Yeah.
So I guess if they made it before the CDC, obviously Fort Benning was decimated. I don't think that there were many survivors there. I think that they would have gone, and they would have burned through their resources, and I think that they would have ventured far enough away from Herschel Farm where that really wouldn't have been, part of the story of The Walking Dead. I think that they would have gone there, and that would have pushed Shane a little bit further off the edge, because that was Shane's plan.
Right.
And we would have seen something that Shane did to fail. At this point, Shane hasn't done anything to fail. Shane has been, the protector. He's been the guy who's told Rick nothing you're doing is working, and he has that to go on. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
look, man, you're screwing up. Shane actually screws up. It might have been, another way to push him over the edge. I think that the confrontation between him and Rick would have happened a lot sooner, especially if they went to a Fort Benning and it was overrun.
Yep.
Now,
And if they're starving, they might be getting cold now, and
exactly.
so many other conflicts in there.
Yeah, and Shane is now in full survivor mode,
Mm.
and maybe they're in a fight and a skirmish with the undead of Fort Benning, and Shane uses this opportunity to kill Rick. You never know.
Yep.
So I'm glad it didn't happen, obviously, because the rest of the story wouldn't make sense. But
Yeah.
but I think that he definitely I think that there would have been it wouldn't have been roses if they would have made it to Fort Benning. I think Shane would have shown his true colors a little bit sooner than we saw. And then as for if they went to Fort Benning after the farm or instead of looking for Sophia,
Yeah, I
so
guess if they didn't, if they could actually make it through the traffic,
yeah,
if they didn't, for some reason, they didn't have a reason to go to the farm, or even that's another question. Maybe went there after the farm. There's certain, I guess, turning points where they could have went.
yeah.
Um,
After the farm, again, same thing.
mhm.
It's still overrun. If not, it's even more overrun.
Yeah.
Just the same thing. I think that would have been the straw that broke the camel's back for Shane. I mean, just knowing that an idea of his, basically an "I told you so" moment that he's had with Rick the whole time that Rick has come back. Everything he
Mhm.
said is, "I told you so. You're screwing up." And for him to actually fail at something, especially fail at keeping Carl and Lori safe,
Yep.
you would seen him, be pushed off the edge a little bit quicker than he was during season 2. So.
And we know Fort Benning was overrun from a little running in the bar. Uh,
Yep. Yeah, definitely was because Dave and Tony
yeah.
said that it was gone.
Yeah.
Um, gone. So again, other survivors also probably scavenged all the remains and took all the supplies that were left there. So it would have basically been a barren wasteland full of walkers, and
Mhm.
that's not any fun.
No.
So,
All the weapons have been gone. You
yeah,
know, uh, just like what Glenn had mentioned, in future episodes that anything like we found is hidden, basically.
yeah,
You know. All right, you want to pick the next one?
yeah. So we'll ask Jay this question, and then I'll give you my take on it. Your thoughts on how a zombie bite actually kills a person, and this is
Ah,
all season. So
yes.
we're gonna let Jay dig into how he thinks this happens.
So one thing Kirkman said he'll never do is explain how the virus or bacteria or however you want to call it, how do these walkers originated.
Yeah.
So, was it like some great movies where it's a nuclear explosion, the radiation caused these? Was it just the act of God?
Hmm.
It appears to be some sort of infection, though. So we
Hmm.
know that the bite itself doesn't cause the infection. You're already infected.
Yep.
But it does cause some sort of symptoms which kills your body.
Yep.
Um, so that's kind of what it does. It's a horrible infection which your immune system can't combat. The
Mhm.
scratching, though, it's never shown. It's always talked about, but no, I've never seen anyone actually die from scratching. And I feel like they've come like you see, characters punch zombies in the face with their bare fist. I feel like
Yeah.
if you could die from a scratch,
Gonna be a lot more death.
I wouldn't be punching them. They'd probably be walking around in full hazmat suits at that point. Um, but I think that's what happens is the actual symptoms that kill you from the infection.
And I agree with everything Jay said. I'll take it a little bit further. You're talking about a corpse here that's just rotted, rotted flesh.
Mhm.
The teeth are decayed. You're talking about, if something bites you with rotted teeth and, infection, the infection is full blown in this walker. It's taken over the body at this point. But it's also common sense. You have something that's it's unsanitary. This is the most unsanitary thing you can have is a walking corpse with maggots and all sorts of stuff coming from it. If it bites you and breaks skin, you got all sorts of shit that goes into your bloodstream. It's just not good news.
Yeah.
So any bite that becomes infected, obviously you need antibiotics. You need tetanus shots if you get, a cut on metal or rusted nails. But can you imagine getting bit by something that's decayed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, just like Jay said, it's not the bites per se, it's the infection that kills the person, and everybody's infected, and so the bites just expedite that process, I guess you could say, and there's no cure other than amputation.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if you get bit on the neck, I mean,
yeah, you're done for. And you see, well, I'm not sure if it's actually real. I've seen some science about myths from the Komodo dragon bite, where it's not poisonous, but just from the bacteria from the mouth, that can cause a deadly infection as well.
exactly.
Like James was saying, you get a bad cut sometimes,
And that's it.
Next thing you know, that's it. A blood infection, and you're donezo.
And look at season 6 when the wolf, the wolf that Morgan, caught and put in the basement,
Mm-hmm.
he had a cut and it was infected. And he started to die. So
Yep.
An infection.
T-dog.
T-Dog, same thing. He almost died. He almost had the blood infection, and it was Merle's chlamydia medicine that saved him. So.
Oh, and then both of them had the same reaction too. It was like, really? This is how I go? Can you imagine that? A zombie apocalypse happens around me, and I cut my arm, and this is how I go from an infection. I'm like, what the heck?
See.
I would like to see someone actually die from scratch, though.
Yeah, I think they hinted on it, but I think it was just Rick's way of deterring Shane from knowing what Jenner told him. I think Rick was just trying to get Shane off his back, asking what happened.
And I'm sure there's bacteria underneath their nails. I mean, with Tiny in the prison, when there's exposed bones scratched into him, so you're gonna have.
But think about it: a corpse is gonna have more bacteria than anything. It's almost like a vessel for bacteria and viruses to run crazy. There's nothing to fight it off in the body anymore.
Yep.
It's just it's
a cesspool of everything.
It's a cesspool of infection and pus and all sorts of nasty shit.
Wonderful stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't have white blood cells to fight, so it's walking sepsis. So, what are you gonna do about that? Oh, we're gonna contract it to somebody else.
Yep.
So.
All right, so that kind of leads to the next question. Speaking of how disgusting these walkers are, why do the survivors have to burn the bodies, and why wouldn't it be smarter to use them as like some sort of defense mechanism around their location?
Well, at first in the first couple of seasons, they again, it goes back to this this disgusting part. A dead body in general, even if it's not a human, obviously, not everybody gets the privilege of smelling a dead body.
Or one that's been dead for years and then sitting out in the Atlanta sun.
Yeah.
Oof.
So it's rotted. Some of it is decaying, decomposing. But a dead body in general, like if you ever were walking your dog or something like that, and you came upon a dead possum in the road, and it's been in the hot sun, it smells like ass.
Yeah. Or just smell your trash can. If you throw away some sort of chicken in there a couple days later, you're like, oh, gotta take the garbage out because it stinks.
And these people know that, and you can't, you have to burn them to get rid of the stink. It's also not it's not sanitary. You're growing, like in the farm, for instance, not the farm, the prison yard. They talked about burning the bodies because they wanted to grow crops, and they didn't want the ground to be with rotted flesh. They don't know if it's going to cause any more kind of sickness. And then for Herschel's farm, the point of burning the bodies in Herschel's farm, and the point of burning bodies in general, is the labor it takes to dig a grave. You got all these walkers. You're going to dig hundreds of graves. You'd be digging graves all day. You wouldn't get anything else done. So it's just like, it's something to, it's a more efficient way of disposing of bodies and getting rid of that stink, and making sure that you have, you get them off of your land, especially if you're using that land to grow crops. So, again, it's basically the smell, it's the prevention of, having rotted soil, and then it's the labor that it takes to bury a body. You want to put them in a pile and burn them. You don't have time to dig 75 holes.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Come on. So, and as the second part of the question, why didn't they use them as a deterrent? Well, obviously, as you look at the seasons as they go on, Michonne started to show you they can be used as a deterrent for other
Mm-hmm.
walkers. And then you started to see, you see the sanctuary where the governor, I mean not the governor, where Negan uses them on the wall,
Yep.
and so other survivors are getting that, getting the logic of saying, hey, these guys, these walkers are deterrents to other walkers. We'll just put them around our facility.
And it
You know,
turned to survivors. I mean, you're not gonna hop that fence if you're gonna land between 20
true,
20 walkers in there, or you
true,
gotta rethink your game plan there.
yeah,
But
because
they
it's
just
more effort.
smell though.
Yeah,
You think about like when Abraham and those guys came up like on the hill with the farmland down below, and they catch that whiff of just dead in the air. I could imagine trying to have like a normal lunch, just having that constant death fragrance just linger. Oh,
it's disgusting. And
yeah.
and for the survivors, there was one point where they said you just used to the smell, but you never get used to it, and that's why they continuously burn the bodies, and they keep telling people, like they told the prisoners in season 3, you better burn those bodies.
Yeah, yeah.
This play, and it comes from one of my favorite zombie movie of all times, Dawn of the Dead, when Peter and Steven are in the mall and they clear it out, and there's dead bodies everywhere, and Peter looks at Steven and goes, we got to get rid of these bodies. It's going to be rotten in here,
Yeah.
So it's like you just don't want to be, just like Jay said, think of raw chicken on a sunny day in the hot sun, and just have that smell probably times 100,
Yep.
and then have 100 of bodies that smell like that. So it's just like you don't want to deal with that, and burning them takes care of it. And later on, you start to see other survivors use them as deterrents. So that's the second part of your question. Obviously, they dig into survivors getting more accustomed to the world of walkers, as you would
Mhm.
say. So the world of Walking Dead.
And as their, I guess, land space enlarges, they can put them on the outskirts more, so it's not so close to like where you're going to be living.
Yep.
So they can kind of get away from the smell a little bit. All right,
All
which
right.
one do you want to tackle next?
All right. So this one was a question that Jay kind of had, and we talked about this, before we even thought about a show like this. I'm gonna give it to Jay though. This is something that we talked about, between me and him. How come Shane didn't infect himself when he cut his hand with the same knife he killed walkers with in season 2?
This comes back to talking with Kirkman, our producers, the showrunners, and be like, can we just get like actual ruling here? Like what are the laws here that we can follow consistently?
Mm-hmm.
To me, I mean that's the same thing as being scratched by one. As if he just got done stabbing a walker in the head and then he cuts his hand with the same one, I don't see much of a difference. You see Abraham get cut on the arm too from Sasha later on after she got done clearing out from zombies.
True.
So it's something that's happened a couple times.
And Rick, when he cut the zombie, he cut his hand,
Yep.
with the machete, and he
Yep.
thought that he was gonna be, he thought that maybe Rick was gonna turn at that point.
Or lose his hand.
Yep.
It's just not knowing the official, I guess, laws of The Walking Dead.
Correct.
And I think that like certain questions like this have been raised, and a lot of times they'll be kind of skipped over. This, it's just it's a zombie show. Zombies aren't real. Don't focus on that. But I want to know. I want to know too. Tell me what the average mile per hour speed of a walker is. Give me the range. I want to know the actual like AI. Of everything here. Like if there's
I
a
still,
program or video game, I want to know what the variables are.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree with you with that. What are the miles per hours? I think they dropped the ball with that. I think fresher zombies should be able to move faster,
Mm.
because they haven't quite hit that stage of rigor mortis. And they're still kind of moving around. It's not like everything is set in, and they're not.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't think they should be able to hop fences or climb
no,
ladders.
no, but they should be a little bit faster.
Yeah, I agree with that. So why didn't he get infected?
I think it's back to what you said, Jay. I think they want to show you that it's not the zombie blood per se. It's more of an event that causes massive infection, And I don't think that a cut on your hand is going to cause infection, even if you cut your hand and it has walker blood on it. I mean, it's just not something that is so significant. I mean, you can cure that with antibiotics or bacillation.
Alcohol
Yeah,
on it or something.
exactly.
Like we don't see like a minor bite. We don't see like a small tooth puncture, or not even puncture, but like an indent with a little blood.
Yeah.
Like is that it? Is that like what qualifies as a bite? I mean, when we see zombie bites or walker bites, it's a chunk of flesh being torn out and
Or
exposed
it's
to
a
everything.
significant bite that breaks a lot of skin.
Yeah,
It's nothing. It's nothing like he just nicked you. You
yeah. Like
know,
you get bit by a cat and it's just like a
yeah,
little spot of blood comes up. Like I mean, what would you do? Would you chop off your arm just in case, or would you like? I think I'll be okay.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
I would chop off my arm. I don't want
Yeah.
that to.
Never get play around.
I don't even care.
Oh, would you be able to like scoop it out? Like
Yeah,
if
it's
you
true.
dug underneath it.
Yeah. So,
I
but
don't
yeah, I
know.
agree with you. I think that you answered that question perfectly. I can't find anything else to add to that. I just think that it once again, it's not significant. It's
Mhm.
just, it's a zombie show. You know what I'm saying? And the cut on your hand, it isn't a significant mode of infection. I mean, maybe if the cut became infected, but that your cut can become infected from just a normal
Yeah.
scratch on a piece of a nail or something. You know what I'm saying? So
And I
it's
tell you,
it's
I wouldn't be out there cutting my hand.
yeah.
I mean, I might like cut my forearm a little bit, but I feel like my hands I'm gonna be utilizing a lot. And last thing I want is a cut on it that's not gonna heal.
And your hands are always going to be dirty in this
Right.
work, so you're never going to ever have them clean. Abraham he constantly was breaking the skin on his hand
Yep.
from fighting. I mean, with all the infectious things that are out there in a zombie apocalypse, you kind of, you want to have all cuts sealed up no matter what. Zombie bite, dog bite, anything. You kind of want that shit sealed up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Don't want to be those guys like we're talking about. It's like really. I come
yeah,
out here and I die to an infection. Come
yeah.
on, that could have happened,
What the
20 years
fuck?
ago.
Um,
So hopefully that answers your question.
yep.
There's no definitive answer right now without some, handbook saying this is, what causes or this is how much bacteria or how much bite needs to be taken out or how much exposure needs to happen.
And we'll never know because Kirkman is never going to tell us.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd answer the same like I don't, no,
Yeah.
don't worry about that. Because it's about the characters,
Yes,
That's what he wants to focus on.
correct.
All right, all right, all right. So let's go back to another group of characters over here. Let's go to G's group.
Okay,
Los
so
Vatos.
this question was, what do you think happened to G's group? So they showed this on the season 2 DVD.
Hmm.
It was a deleted scene. The group goes back. I mean, so first of all, this was a great deleted scene here because it showed Shane running away from, a mini herd of walkers. And he comes into the RV and he says to Rick and Glenn and Lori and Carl, oh my God, you can run from them forever, but they don't get winded. And he tells Rick, they don't get winded. You get winded, but they don't get winded.
Hmm.
And obviously Rick says the same thing to Sophia.
Yeah.
I can't, I get winded. They don't, So it shows where that came from. But after that conversation, after that reveal that walkers don't get winded, Shane goes, "What's your next move?" And Rick says to him, "Why don't I know a place that we can go?" And it's obviously the factory where G's group is. So the survivors go in the RV to the factory the warehouse where G's group is, and they see it's completely decimated. And it's not that walkers decimated the area, other survivors. So this is the first time you actually see humans being a threat, and they deleted this scene because it was so long, it was drawn out. But
Yeah.
this was officially the first time because Daryl looked around And Daryl was like, you have to be observant. And Andrea was making fun of him for being a redneck. And Daryl was like, hey, look, these son of a bitches have gunshot wounds to the head. Walkers don't use guns.
Yeah.
And he said observant, and he told Andrea what it meant. And it just showed you that you have groups that are so big that can come into a warehouse full of armed men and totally wipe them out. So, the survivors start to see this, but of course this was a deleted scene. I think this was such a long deleted scene that there's no way they can add this to, pretty the first episode, which was what the fuck was the first episode's name?
First episode of season 2.
Season 2, yeah, that was called Jesus Christ. What lies ahead?
There it is.
So they basically already had an hour and a half season premiere. There was no way that they were gonna, they can extend it with everything they had to put in there. But basically, G's group was decimated by another living group. But also, everybody who dies turns. They had a lot of senior citizens in there. They could have had an outbreak too.
That's what I thought. That's how I thought they were gonna go. Is they don't
too.
know that you turn, without getting bit. That one of those, other people are gonna die. They're gonna come up and someone's gonna go in there and check on them. Next thing you know, they get bit, and then it just spirals from there.
And I thought that would have been actually a better way than I actually thought that they should have rounded out Herschel's farm and made a trip to the warehouse, with the knowledge that everybody turns, and found all the old people, chomping on, Guillermo and his crew. But they actually,
like going in there and seeing it's still sealed up from the outside.
Yeah.
Well, how the hell did a zombie get in here? A little breadcrumb.
Exactly. So that's what happened to G's group. Check it out on the season 2 DVD, deleted scenes.
We don't know what group that was though. That picked him off.
I'm going to go on a hunch, and it wasn't Negan's group because they're too far north. I'm going to say that this may have been, early governor's group. Just makes sense what he did. Gunshot wounds. He didn't use guns to kill people, but he did use guns to kill humans. He just used knives if they shot him in the back or something. So they.
It would have been a fun Easter egg if inside one of the tanks was G's head.
Yeah, if you never know, look back, you may see that.
I might, to go back and it's like freeze frame at each head to be like, do we know that person?
Yes.
Maybe Jim's Walker head's in there. You don't know.
Yeah, and here goes another a person that died in turn was Clara, season 4 premiere. She was the Irish lady in the woods that Rick found that tried to lure him. Yep. She died, and Rick let her turn, and she showed up in the season 4 mid-season finale. So they're up to 22. So, but yeah, basically that's what happened to G's group, and that would be a good Easter egg if somebody could actually. I'm going to go back and look. Maybe we could find G's head in there. You never know. So.
Yeah, all the recognizable Walker heads.
Yep. All right, so this question I'm gonna. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This question could be Jay could start this off. Why did the governor send Merle to kill Michonne just for wanting to leave Woodbury?
So the governor recognizes strength, and he doesn't see that necessarily as an asset, especially one that's loose out there. He feels threatened by any other group. Yep. As long as other groups exist, that gives them an opportunity to come and attack him and either take or kill everybody, or kick him off his throne. So he sees that Michonne will be a loose end.
Yep. And Jay hit it right on the head. I mean, Michonne is a threat. She's an assassin, and they explored that. Merle called her an assassin, a couple of times. Michonne means harm. She can come in like a cat in the night, a thief in the night, and chop the governor's head off, and be out in a jiffy. Or she could find another group and tell them, "Hey, look, this guy." And she actually did that. Hey, look, this guy is he's crazy. We have to kill him. And she actually did that. So the governor's intuition that she could become a threat was 100% correct. She was the biggest threat to the governor. In fact, she was the reason, her and Merle was the main reason, but she did exactly what the governor thought she would do. Go and get another strong group and cause some sort of a mini war. So, Jay was exactly right in his answer. That was a great answer. And, that's why he sent his henchmen to go kill her. You're not just leaving Woodbury. The only time you're leaving is if you die.
And with Andrea there's always that linkage, and there's no way he'd expect her not to come back at some time and try to either get her to come with her or come back with a different group.
Yep.
You wouldn't be able to stand for that.
Nope.
And I guess why he sent Merle, it could be like a two-part question there, is, hey, he's his dog. He's his attack dog.
Correct.
Take these guys out there and get it done. And Merle is a yes man, at this point, where he's like, of course, like Michonne asked him, like, how many people have you killed before meeting the governor? And it was none, but after meeting him, he feels like he owes it to him, so for some reason, but...
Yeah.
All right, well, while we're talking about Michonne here, I was talking about her backstory a little bit here. One of the questions is, with Michonne's backstory, is there anything you would change about it? Now, I know you love Michonne. I love Michonne. Who doesn't love Michonne? But is there anything you would change about her backstory?
Okay, so they had a couple of... they had a deleted scene where they're around the fire, and they actually showed this in one of the episodes in season 3. And Andrea's asking Michonne who were the walkers, on chains. Yeah. Michonne doesn't answer her. Milton hints and says, they must have been close to you. And Michonne doesn't answer. Carl, it wasn't until Carl, basically, it wasn't until season 4. So we're this is one of the questions that go into season 4 a little bit. But it wasn't until season 4 that you saw like a flashback that Michonne had. Michonne is very artistic. She's an artist. She's an intellectual. She's got a high IQ. And she obviously was good with a sword. So they showed a flashback of her speaking to her boyfriend and her boyfriend's best friend, and they had just come from a play, and they just had a very artistic, intelligent conversation about the play and what the play depicted. And Michonne and her boyfriend thought it was very, plain. It wasn't anything special. And, it just showed the artsy side of her. And she was a very elegant woman. But she also had a skill with a sword. And as the flashback dream started to deteriorate a little bit, they show what happened with Michonne. We show, how the walker, the world started to come to an end. And her boyfriend said to her, you're good with a sword. You have a skill. You're an asset. And then they showed, them panicking a little bit more. And then, of course, they turned into walkers and Michonne woke up. Later on, Michonne tells Carl, my boyfriend and them, they got high.
Hey, it's zombie apocalypse. You gotta pass the time somehow.
And this is why my son died. So what I would have changed about this, I think that they could have dug in a little bit more, but I would have stuck more to the comics in this sense. I would have really liked to see, Michonne with these two men. I would like to see, because Michonne didn't know that anybody who dies turns. The governor told her that. So I would have liked to see them kind of stick to the comic book a little bit here and have it so, her boyfriend got bit, Michonne is scavenging, comes back, her boyfriend and her boyfriend's friend have turned and is eating the body of her son, and obviously she turns them into, the walker pets. I think that would have fit a little bit more than the story that, they were high, and the son died. I mean, if you're a parent, I know that it's the end of the world, but you're not gonna get that high where your kid is just gonna be playing with a walker and die. You know what I mean?
I guess the other question is, like, how did she know, like, they were high? Were they still alive when she came back? And they're like, sorry, we told you.
Yeah, they were still alive.
Yeah, okay.
They were bit, and she was just like, they were high. They got my son killed, but they were high and they were bitten. So it pissed her off because she said that they deserved to die. So she blames them for the death of her son.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's not going to blame them if they were walkers. They obviously were alive, and it was their neglect to keep him safe. And I would have, like I said, I would have changed that a little bit, and I would have had them, one is bitten, and Michonne is going out to get antibiotics or bandages, and comes back, and everybody's dead, and Michonne had to put them all down. So I would have stuck a little bit to the Michonne special, which was in the comics, but this works too. It worked too because it showed you why she's such an artist. She's very artistic. She goes and gets sculptures. She looks at paintings.
Like that cat from the bar.
Yeah,
with
yeah. She's very
damn cute. Now, have you got a chance to play the Telltale game of hers? I haven't played that yet.
I have.
Yeah.
I have. Yes, and I told my daughter that I'm gonna beat it she wants to watch me play it. So I obviously have season 3, and she wants me to play Michonne special, and got it a long time ago. But with the baby and stuff, I really didn't have time for anything. So she wants me to beat it. She wants to watch it. So I'll oblige.
Does that touch on her backstory, or is it more like her travel from then on?
Travel from it's what happened when she left Alexandria, between Alexandria and the Kingdom. So it doesn't show her backstory, but just her adventure when she had enough at Alexandria, and how she ended up with the Kingdom. So,
gotcha.
Yep. All right, so we'll give Jay the next question.
Sure.
All right, and let's see. Okay, so this is the last of the questions, and then I'll tie into the final question that we've had. Tyrese's group situation. Why does Alan hate Tyrese or despise Tyrese? And did Tyrese steal Alan's wife, which is Ben's mother, in season 3?
So, I don't think he stole her. I think it's jealousy. When you have this beast of a man who can protect your wife better than you can, Alan probably sees that as a threat where, this is survival now. Maybe his wife would leave Alan, to go with Tyrese. And you can tell that Alan is weak. And it goes back to the weak inherit the earth. Without Tyrese there, Alan and his son could have killed the prison group with, when they're just the old people and the young people.
Yep.
And it just shows his character where he's not built to be a leader, where Tyrese was for that group. And he probably misconstrued his wife's looks at him as a leader, not say as like a lover or anything to that level, but at least appreciation for, hey, I appreciate what you do for being the leader of this group and protecting us.
Correct. Again, he hit it on the head. Tyrese is a massive man. He's a brute. In the comic books, he's much more dangerous. He's much more stoic. And in the show, he's a little bit more sensitive. He's a little bit weaker of a character, but he's still a massive of a man. He's much bigger than most of the survivors. He has a side of him that if he snaps, it's over. Physically imposing to somebody like Alan. Obviously, he led the group from the shelter, the bomb shelter that their neighbor had, and he led them all the way to the prison. He's made some hard decisions. He made the decision to put down Ben's mother. So, looking at it, Alan has a jealousy there. And when they latch on to Woodbury, he no longer has to look at Tyrese as a leader. He can challenge him because he has that, I got a new buddy. I'm gonna go and get my other friend to beat you up now.
I'm gonna get dad on you.
Yeah. So he's a coward, and it shows this throughout the season. But obviously Tyrese made it further than him, survived a little bit longer than he did, and Alan was one of the victims of the governor's rage, as the governor killed him and the rest of. And Ben Merle killed Ben when he tried to kill the governor, so
Yeah.
Ben is already dead. Alan, the governor, absolutely just snaps and shoots Alan in the head and shoots everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, the government had no respect for Alan. You
No,
could tell that he just latched on and he was pathetic. And
it's a leech.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
But
so we could even pull the trigger against the government. The government just wasted 15 people.
yeah,
He so choked pulling the trigger. So the governor's like, really? Fine.
yeah, yeah.
Pistol dead.
Just an asshole, and he
Yeah.
died.
I mean, heck, if I'm running through the woods, I'll probably get a little closer to Tyrese. I know he's big enough to get my back, so
Yeah,
I don't want him. I think like we've been talking about, it was just jealousy in those situations.
and there's a perfect answer to it. And again, it just shows you that when the world goes to shit, you have people who are natural leaders, and you have cowards. You have weak people, you have strong people, and you have good people, and you have bad people. And Alan is a weak person, and he's easily manipulated. He's easily, it's easy for him to be envious and jealous, and it showed. I mean, if he had that inclination that his wife was, into Tyrese romantically, he was such a coward that he never challenged Tyrese's position as that mini group's leader until he got to Woodbury. So that's even more, as a man, you kind of are like, well, this is my wife, you need to back off. He never did that. So
yeah, it's kind of like with Rick and what's his name there. Look, there's his guts, Spencer.
Yeah.
It's that cowardness where it's like, if you want to be the leader, you have to do it when you have to challenge the leader. You can't hide behind someone else's shadow and think you're a leader.
Oh, this guy's a lion. I'm not really a lion, but this guy's a lion, and Rick's a lion. I'm gonna go get this lion to fight you, Rick. And you can't. And it just shows, like Negan said, man, you don't have any guts.
Yeah, you're not a leader.
Come on. Oh, actually, you do.
There they are. Good scene.
But those were the main questions there. We got an Easter egg question, and I promised that I would go into this. Breaking Bad, I always tell people,
it's a popular one too. I've heard this for quite some time now.
It's really good, and Breaking Bad is. I always say Walking Dead is my favorite show because of zombies, so I'm biased to that because of zombies. And Breaking Bad, if there were no zombies in The Walking Dead, Breaking Bad would be my favorite show. I mean, this is 1A, 1B. Breaking Bad was probably the greatest show I've ever seen on television. Obviously, Walking Dead, because it's zombies, is always going to rank above. But there's been a lot of theories out there of, Walter White being the main reason why the zombie apocalypse happened. That was shot down, and I tell you right now, it's impossible, because nothing he can create can become the reason everybody's infected. It obviously has to be something global that happened. I know if people do meth, okay, maybe the meth heads may turn into walkers, but that doesn't explain how a 2-year-old child can turn into a walker. You know what I'm saying? So it's that obviously was squashed as rumor, but there were a lot of connections between Breaking Bad and Walking Dead. So I was asked about the Easter eggs because I've talked about them before. The first one was the red Mustang that Glenn had, and in Breaking Bad, when Skyler told Walt to return the Mustang, he did, and the sales associate Glenn, he took the red Mustang from Walt. So obviously Glenn was driving the red Mustang in the second episode of The Walking Dead, and there was a connection there. So Glenn was the sales associate driving the red Mustang in Albuquerque, and he was also not the sales associate, but he also was driving a red Mustang in Atlanta, and he actually knew how to drive it. So it was like kind of a connection there. The second one was the most obvious of them all, and it actually connected to later on as well. This was in season 2. Was Merle?
This kind of started it. I feel like
it actually was put there on purpose as paying homage to the Breaking Bad series. The blue meth was in Merle's bag of medication, and if you look close underneath the pill bottles, obviously Daryl was getting high on meth. He had in Chupacabra. It was because he was taking meth. Um, Merle's stash was blue meth, and obviously Walter White's meth was blue.
Yep.
So you know that was obvious. That was obvious then, but it became more obvious in season 4 and Daryl's standalone episode when he told Beth, how he almost died, and he said, Merle, there was this janky white drug dealer, Jesse Pinkman, and Merle pissed him off, and Jesse Pinkman's famous line is to call everybody a bitch, and Daryl said, Merle's drug dealer was a janky white guy, and Merle pissed him off, and he pulled the gun and he said, "I'm gonna kill you, bitch," and that was, Merle had the blue meth, and Jesse's still alive in Breaking Bad, so obviously the two of them can connect. But there are a lot of things that Robert Kirkman and Vince Gillian have in common, and they like to show choices, and they like to show how their main characters have morphed into their alter egos. Walter White became Heisenberg. Jesse Pinkman actually became a chemist. Better Call Saul. That Saul, that show is a spin-off of Breaking Bad. Mm-hmm. But Better Call Saul Goodman was James McGill. He was a good guy first, and they're getting into how he's turned into Saul, the crooked lawyer. So Vince Gillian, he likes to do the same thing that Robert Kirkman did. The shows, they're kind of parallel to each other. So it's always been fun for people to say, this is the reason why the zombie apocalypse happened. And, it's nice to think that way, but it just doesn't make sense. Maybe it happened in the world, as we know it, but I don't think Walter White's meth recipe is the reason why.
Yeah, I mean, on a global scale to occur all at the same time.
And then an argument that I heard was, well, he distributed meth across the world, but it wasn't really across the world. It wasn't in Japan. It wasn't in China. It wasn't in Australia.
And they come from the same batch to get out there all at the same time.
Yeah. And why were there walkers? There was plenty of people doing the blue meth over a course of years for Walter White. He developed the blue meth, the methamphetamine. He developed the blue meth with the methamphetamine at first. And, as you saw in the series, his birthdays, it was a 2-year span. There were no walkers within 2 years of taking the first blue meth that he created, So, I don't think so. I know that's a good theory that people have, and it's creative, but I don't think that would be the reason. Like I said, like Jay said, it had to be something global, and Kirkman will never let us know that.
And it goes back to like the cut. It's like that's not the focus.
It's not. It's survival. Yeah. And it's humans, interactions, and how you handle an apocalypse. And you could replace zombie variable with anything. Yeah. Meteor hitting the earth, a volcano exploding. It could be anything. It could be the World War Z virus that nobody should ever talk about in their lives. But it's it could be anything. Yeah. So it's just showing how humans cope with an associated apocalypse. But it's always interesting, and I really do think it would be great, especially Fear the Walking Dead, since they're out west. It would be so great if they can tie, maybe have like a crossover with one of the characters from Breaking Bad, just as an Easter egg. You never know.
Just to mess around the viewers a little bit, like,
New Mexico and Mexico is right there. Why not? They're crossing the border onto New Mexico, and let's say they run into Jesse Pinkman.
What if they just see like their RV just drive by?
Yes,
is that where are they going? I don't know.
Yeah, see,
but imagine if like they go back to season 1 where you got the two RVs just like honking at each other on the way by or something.
See? And the RV, Walter White's RV and Dale's RV, they're very similar. Yeah. So, you have the connections there. but it would almost be like Easter eggish, as I would say, if the two worlds met.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they'll do something in the future, in future episodes, just to pay homage to each other, and that would be great. I really think that that's amazing that AMC does that. It just shows you how powerful those two shows are, and how much respect the two producers have for each other.
Now, was
So
Breaking Bad skipped on as well by other series or other channels? I
it
don't have
was,
history.
it
Yeah.
was, it was skipped over by Showtime.
Yeah.
Rumored. I mean, I don't know if this
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
up, but it was rumored that Showtime turned it down and AMC jumped on it. And of course, that's another mistake. If that's true,
Mm.
that's another humongous mistake. I think that's a bigger mistake than skipping on The Walking Dead. I think that Breaking Bad um, on a network like Showtime would have been phenomenal. Like it would have been even better. I mean, I take that back. Skipping out on The Walking Dead probably was the biggest mistake in TV history.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad might have been the second biggest mistake as a television show because
I mean, imagine Negan not on cable.
yeah,
I love that. I mean, how many times can you say F in an episode? I think it would broke the record.
yeah, it would have. And it's not just skipping on a TV show when it comes to The Walking Dead. It's skipping on a universe. So
It's true.
you know,
Yeah.
you lost all rights to video games, to mobile games, to board games, to DVDs, to webisodes, to books, novels. That was the biggest mistake, and that's why I like Walking Dead better because it's more of a universe than Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is an incredible show. Like I said, it was 1A with Walking Dead. And if it's true that Showtime did skip on it, like I said, I gotta fact check that one. That's a huge mistake. I mean, Showtime has shows like Nurse Jackie. They have other shows that are very good, and I don't know why they would skip on Breaking Bad. What the hell are you doing?
I don't know. Maybe it was a bad pitch to him. I don't know.
Oh, so that leads to the final question. Jay and I'll talk about it.
Mhm.
It was asked, can we do a dissection of Breaking Bad? So time constraints. We J dissect Walking Dead is because this is something that's close to us. I mean, we watched The Walking Dead together. I mean, that was basically big part of our friendship was The Walking Dead. So this is more nostalgic for us to review The Walking Dead. Breaking Bad I watched with my wife. I'm sure Jay watched with his wife, but we never got together and watched Breaking Bad. So it's more of this show is what brought us together as friends. We were already friends, but this really it was a common
Solidified
interest.
it. Yeah.
It solidified it. So it's closer to us than Breaking Bad would be.
Mhm.
Are we ruling it out? Well, we're gonna do the season 7 reviews. This Sunday coming out next Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. So watch out. I can't believe it's already here.
The premiere, and we're going back to the episode by episode basis. We've been on schedule the last 4 or 5 Mondays. We've hit it on the head with these reviews. So hopefully we can continue to schedule. But as Jay says in many of the shows, hey man, we're adults. We have a lot of things going on. So time constraints. But if we can get these views up and we can get some more support, with the charities, not forcing anybody to do anything, but we start to see a little bit more support here, and if that's what you guys want, we're not going to turn you down. We'll get together and we'll look at it. And,
if we feel like hey, if I've thrown a new show out there and that'll drive up our charity, twofold or something crazy like that, we'd gladly do it for the betterment of everybody else.
Exactly, because it becomes when we start to add on more shows, we got to find time to do it.
Yeah, and one thing we have to make sure is that this remains fun for us.
Exactly.
Like we're not making any money from this.
None.
We've invested money into it because I have faith in myself, my friends, and you viewers to make this something larger than just us here.
Yeah.
So that's our main goal is to have fun and produce quality videos for you guys and entertainment, and obviously to make money for charities.
Yeah. And it's a lot of improv stuff too. I mean, obviously I watch The Walking Dead religiously. I mean, it's not a night.
Yeah.
And I also
It was on the other day, like leading up to the Super Bowl,
I
and we're
watched
just
it
like,
before
let's
the
throw it
Super
on.
Bowl. Season two.
Yeah.
Season two was on. I saw the episode. They're in the woods and Daryl shoots the walker that's hanging.
Yep.
And the very next episode was just before the Super Bowl started. So
Yeah, we're just like,
um
what else is on? Doesn't matter. We turn it on just in time for Tell to the Frogs, which
yeah.
once again I can't even tell you how many times we watched the episode, but Kelsey cried again. Um, I literally turned just in time for Rick to return to show up to the group for him to find Carl and his wife.
Against all odds. Can you imagine that shit?
Yeah, and it's
Against
just the same feels. If anything, it's more feels because you know everything else around it, so you can actually appreciate the moment.
yeah.
Um, and it's funny that like honestly, we've watched that episode at least a dozen times.
Yeah.
So
And like Jay said, it's not. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would have a lot of fun doing a Breaking Bad, dissect Breaking Bad, because I'm starting to watch it over and over again, just in case. I don't want to hint at something and not be ready for it. So I'm brushing up on it just in case. I'm getting ready for Better Call Saul. Breaking Bad is on my playlist to watch at nights when I can't sleep.
yeah.
But
I'll
again,
say that Fear the Walking Dead would be more likely, just because it's the same like you said, universe of the Walking
it's the
Dead.
same universe as Walking Dead. I agree.
Um,
But never say never.
yeah,
Um,
like I said, if
um,
we get high enough, requests for it.
yeah. I mean, hey man, get those views up. We start seeing, subscribe, like our YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Show us a little bit of support here. If you guys want it, the fans demand it. We see a demand for it. We'll obviously, I'll make anything fun if I can.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just don't want to do it just to do it. I want to do it because you guys want it. And I want it, I wanted to make it impromptu, just like we're doing before. I do not mind, brushing up on these episodes. I've watched season 1 through 5. I've actually watched. Somebody told me, one question for Breaking Bad, and I promised to answer it, is Felina, which was the series finale, and what did Felina mean? So Felina meant blood, meth, and tears. So Fe is blood. Meth would be the Li, and then the Na would be salt or tears.
Right.
So Felina was blood, meth, and tears, and that was the name of the finale. And obviously it had blood, it had meth, and it had tears in it. So you have, again, it was just an incredible series. I am open to it. Maybe down the road if we get enough support for it. But like Jay said, I think what we're gonna do, because Fear the Walking Dead will be on. I think we're gonna try to dissect Fear the Walking Dead. I'm hoping season 3 is gonna pick up a little bit where second half of season 2 left off.
Yeah.
I personally have gotten a lot of requests for Fear the Walking Dead just to hear me make fun of the show.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of ideas, and we appreciate the recommendations. Another thing we can go over, or later down the road, are zombie books, other zombie movies.
Yes.
It's a universe, multi-universes out there that we can tie in, and then we can use the basis of Walking Dead and compare everything towards that.
Correct.
But yeah, good recommendation.
Yeah, it's a great recommendation, and stay tuned. You never know. Like I said,
Yep.
I didn't know, man. I started to see, watch the YouTube channels and see those views jump up and gets you excited. But I'm never gonna say never. But like Jay said, I think that we're gonna stick to the zombie universe for now, because there's so much to dig into, and it's a common interest of ours and just nostalgic for us. So we have that chemistry when it comes to The Walking Dead more than we would Breaking Bad, but we can make it work. But right now we're going to stick to The Walking Dead and keep this in the back of our mind, because that is a great idea. And as I said, Breaking Bad is my second favorite show of all time, so it would be very fun for me to do. But again, we're not getting paid to do this.
It's true.
Only so many nights.
We don't want this to feel like a job. We want this to feel like it's James and I having a conversation and having a conversation with you guys out there. So.
It's like shit, man. I'm gonna die. My wife's gonna kill me.
Yeah.
Start doing this shit and not making money. So. But Walking Dead is great, and we appreciate the questions. It was a great review of the seasons. When one of my buddies said to me, you got to do Fear the Walking Dead, and I said, that's on the agenda. And he's like, nah, you just got to make fun of it. You just got to go on your rants and tirades. It's like,
Yeah,
it's not
I
that
think
I
we could do
hate
that.
the show. I just am disappointed.
Yeah.
It's not as much as a hate for it. It's a disappointment because Walking Dead is such a great show. It's like you can't tie Walking Dead to the title of your show and it be such a disappointment.
It's such a drop off, and but
Yeah.
I think we will eventually get to it.
Yeah, we
But we'll keep you guys posted as well.
definitely, definitely. But thanks again for the questions. Again, check out the website. He's doing a great job putting everything together. And I got the playlist. I got all the song names.
Yeah, they're up
I
there.
got where they came from, what seasons they came from. I got the episode list for you in order, chronological order of the show. And somebody asked me, to put it in order of best to worst or best, my favorite to, top 10 shows and from 10 up to 1. And I don't think that you can do that with a series because if I put my favorite episode of the show probably would be no way no way what the hell was season god damn it Too Far Gone would be my favorite episode because it had everything. So Too Far Gone would be my favorite. So if I put Too Far Gone and then my second favorite Better Angels, it just doesn't fit if you go 1-2 like that. So what I did what Jay did, what I did was put them in chronological order, and that order is how you should watch, and it won't take you off the beaten path. Check that out, and always check us out. Check out our past shows on YouTube. It's awesome, man. I mean, this is awesome. I can't wait till next week. See how they come back. It's the second half of a very,
I mean, it can only get better, right?
disappointing season 7 so far, man. I love the show, but I'm gonna call it down the line. I mean, can't defend it too much. It's disappointing. The numbers show.
Weak. Yeah.
Besides,
there are some highs, but for the most part, it's been pretty depressing.
Pretty damn low. I mean, the numbers speak for itself. You got, I think it was like only one episode was 17 million, another one was 12, and everything else is like 10 million each. I mean, that's not Walking Dead numbers, man. Not from the past couple of seasons when you're getting 13 to 16 million viewers watching and you're down to 10. That's not where they should be with this show, in my opinion. I think this show should be drawing 17 to 20 million viewers. I don't see why they can't do it.
We'll get those numbers up again with the premiere, and then we'll see if they maintain it.
Correct. I agree.
So, all right, man. It was a good one.
Good show, man.
Hopefully we answered all your questions, and keep them coming. Questions, recommendations, anything you guys got for us. We appreciate everything.
Definitely. And remember, if we did not get to your questions, even though we did a question and answer, again, this is for season 1 through 3.
Yeah.
I did include one that was season 3, 4-ish. But if you had questions that related to season 4, 5, and 6, and even 7, therefore after the season finale, just so for time constraints, we can't have 3-hour shows, man. People fall asleep.
Gonna be us. But we'll get to those. We'll definitely get to those.
Definitely. We did not forget about you. We got them archived, and there was some great questions, and just keep tuning in. We'll probably touch upon some of these questions in the shows, but we'll definitely get to them, and we have them archived and we're ready to go. So mid-season premiere, second half this Sunday. Tune in.
Yep, and we'll be back on that Monday. Same time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Got
We'll get those YouTube videos up, usually the day after, sometime in the early morning.
it. Got it.
So, all right, thanks guys for tuning in, and if you get a chance, check out the charity down below. Everything helps, like James and I have been talking about, is sharing our channel, clicking on the ads. Every little bit, contributes. So we do appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
On that, James, you have anything else before we sign off?
Oh man, I'm ready for Monday. I'm ready for Sunday night. I'm in these little breaks. I understand that you have football, and you have to kind of back off from football. You don't want to your ratings will drop if you're trying to
Yeah, you can't.
Compete with the NFL. You just can't do that. But these breaks are kind of killing me, man. I think this break was easier to deal with because we had such a long break with that terrible season finale in season 6. I mean, it was a great season finale, but that terrible cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I think that made that 6-month wait excruciating. So 2 months was nothing. It seems like it flew by, but it's still you want to it becomes routine, and you want to see your show, man.
Yeah, you want to keep it going.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, what the hell's wrong with you people?
Well, we'll be here soon enough, so
Yes,
we'll be watching for sure.
Yes, sir.
So you guys better be tuning in as well.
Tune in.
All right, guys. Once again, thank you very much. We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good night, everybody.